Now let us focus on some more functions that can help you work with data spread across multiple cells and trying to organize them. First, to begin with, I would like to have some names over here. So first name, middle name, and then the last name. I'll just expand the column width over here. Yes. So first I have John, Michael Smith, and then we have another Tony McGill. Now we have this data over here, and I would like to have a full name reflecting over here on a single cell. So I say full name. Now, in case if you want all three of them to be in one cell, what is the easiest way? Well, you cannot use just this and plus sign over here, because plus sign is for an arithmetic operation, so we cannot use this. But instead, in Excel, whenever you want to join values from two cells, or join two set of data, either a function and a string or anything, any components that you want them to be side by side, you need to use the ampersand sign. So I use an ampersand, and then I select Michael, and again ampersand. Now, whenever you have an ampersand over here, it indicates to Excel that you are trying to join two things over here. For example, here we have B3 and C3. They will be joined with the help of the ampersand, and further C3 and D3 would be joined. That's what it shows. What happens when we hit enter? Well, John, Michael, Smith, that's good. Now, if I were to apply the same thing over here, that's Tony, ampersand, middle name, ampersand, last name. Well, we have Tony McGill. But look at this. There is no middle name, and at least there should have been a space over here, which we find it missing. What if I had something like K? It does show that. But I would like to have some spaces over here so that I can easily differentiate between each part of the name. And in order to do that, I'll just rewrite the formula, and along with the ampersand, I'll use double quotes space. I'll put a space within the double quotes and again use ampersand. So what exactly is happening here? This is one object. I have ampersand, and the space in double quotes is another object, and I'm joining both of them, and hence we use ampersand between them. Now between the space and C3, again we are joining the space and the C3, so again we need an ampersand. Now between C3 and D3, although they are joined with the help of an ampersand, we don't see a space there. So I need to put a space, but space is also a form of text, so I need to put it within double quotes. Now space and D3 needs to be joined. If I miss on this, Excel will return an error. I click OK, and here we are back at it. Just need to ampersand, and that's it. Now can we try the same thing over here for Tony Michael? We put a double quote and space between the double quotes, ampersand, again ampersand, space within double quotes, and an ampersand, and here we have this. But hey, look at this. Tony McGill. There is a wider gap over here, and John and Michael has lesser gap. That's because now we have two spaces in place over here. That's the space one over here and the other space over here. Now it would be really cumbersome for us to try some different form of if functions and get this done. It is very much doable. But thankfully, Excel has given us better option here. Let me just introduce you to functions. First function, what we had done earlier without the ampersand, that can be doable with the help of concatenate function or concat function. Formerly, earlier it was concatenate. Whenever you see an exclamation next to it, there is a possibility that it could be deprecated soon, or no longer in use. So try to use the latest ones and avoid using the ones with the yellow mark on it, because either they are meant for compatibility with older versions or maybe some others. At times you might also find the functions which are meant to be compatible with Lotus Notes as well. So you can ignore that. Both of them do the same job. This is the latest version of that same function. We'll use this function. Concatenates a list of range of text strings. So here it's asking for text 1, and comma text2. You can do this, or instead of comma, you can just select the entire range as well, and that's absolutely fine. Just select that and close the brackets, and here you have this. Now this is exactly the same view what you had earlier, and I mentioned this as using concat function. You have this. Let's try this again, concat. Now had I just selected one by one, okay, now just because there is nothing over here, I should not leave it if I need to maintain uniformity in my formulas. Just imagine if there were 500 odd records, it would really be difficult for me to manually find out who does not have a middle name. Okay, let's give an exception to the function over here or the formula. It would be very difficult. Maybe I just need a one-stop solution. So concat function may not do that job for us, but we also have another function called as textjoin. So let me type using textjoin. That's another new function over here. And what does it do? We say textjoin. First it asks for delimiter. Now what do you mean by delimiter? Or in a very crude layman's language, I would say a separator. How do you want to differentiate or separate between John and Michael? Do you want it to be separated with a comma? Well, you can do that. You can try with this, comma followed by the space. But then again, this has to be in double quotes. Then we say ignore empty, or do you want to include the empty cells? Now think about Tony McGill. There is no middle name. So I would prefer to ignore empty cells. And then text 1, here I select John, text 2 Michael, text 3 Smith. Or I might just select all three of them at one shot, and that's still absolutely fine. And just close the bracket, hit enter. You see, John, comma, space, Michael, comma, space, Smith. So I can either put a comma, I also give a space over here. I can just leave a space, and that should be fine. So the delimiter that you see over here is what should be. Excel asks you, what do you want to be shown between the values of these two cells? I chose to have this. Some might want to have an underscore, and that's absolutely fine. Something like this, depending on the way how you want this data. Now that's doing a great job here. Let's try the same thing over here. Again, text join. I need a space between delimiters, and yes, I want to ignore empty cells. I do not want the empty cells to be included. But before that, let us check what would happen if I include empty cells. We have this. I'll select this series, hit enter. You see there are two spaces now. But what if instead of false had it been true? That means ignore empty cells. You see, that's perfect. Now this function and this function both does the exact same job over here. There is no difference. I can just copy and paste it here. That saves a lot of efforts for me. I don't need to worry about whether is there any middle name, or is that just a K and a period, or see, the moment I enter K, this function takes care of that and automatically it adds the spaces there. We don't need to worry about that. And that's the beauty of this text join function. Now further, let's say here we have the name. I'll remove the K. Now I would like to know the length of this name over here. So we have the len function. I would like to know how many characters are there in this function. So I select this. Len is the function which is for returns the number of characters in a string. Select this, close the brackets and hit enter. You see 18 characters. Now this also includes the space within. In case if you want to double check, we can again use the len function, and this time I would select the one without spaces and close the brackets. You see 16 because there were two spaces here. So now this is about the len function. I say len, I select this and close the bracket. So this will help me find out length of the text in it. Well, in case if you have any numbers and you want to know how many digits are there, let's say if it was a credit card number that you were typing, and maybe you're not sure if you have entered all the numbers. It appears to be proper, but probably you might have missed on any.